The topic for the present video is when the nitrosamine impurities testing is required for the formulation. I welcome all the viewers to this short video, and in this video we are going to learn regarding the conditions in which the nitrosamine testing is required in the formulation. So as we are known to the nitrosamine impurities, these are of two types, small nitrosamines and the NDSRIs. Nitrosamine testing in the pharmaceutical formulations is required under specific regulatory conditions, and these are driven by the safety concerns related to their potential carcinogenicity. Nitrosamine impurities are potent. These are the impurities which have carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, and their presence can be toxic, can be carcinogenic. So many of the times nitrosamine testing is required in the formulation. Now see the conditions when we need to test these impurities. So if the API or excipients are at the risk of nitrosamine formation or contamination. So as per the risk assessment, if we found that the API or excipients are having the risk of nitrosamine formation, or there is a risk of contamination with the nitrosamine impurities, that time testing for the nitrosamine becomes very much necessary. So when you can say that the APIs are having the risk, so if API is synthesized using amines or nitrites, then there is a risk. Excipients known to contain residual nitrites. There are some excipients which are having the risk like magnesium stearate, microcrystalline cellulose, lactose, povidone, and many other excipients are there which are known to contain some residual nitrites. Then use of secondary or tertiary amines, quaternary ammonium salts, or nitrosetting agents in the formulation. So if these conditions are there, if you think or if you do the risk assessment considering these points, then it becomes necessary to test the nitrosamines. Then second condition, if the API is already associated with the known nitrosamine risk. So many APIs are there which are considered to be risky, like certain group of drugs, ranitidine, metformin, rifampin, and many others, like varenicline is there. So if these APIs are formulated, that time certainly we need to consider the risk. If the API contain a structural alert, like if API is with secondary amine or a nitro group, that time there is a risk and then testing is required. Third condition, for drug products with potential for nitrosamine formation during storage. Many of the formulations have less risk, but during the production, during the manufacturing, during the shelf life, there is a risk. If there is a moisture, pH, heat or reactive excipients, and these can catalyze the nitrosation reaction, that time it becomes necessary to test. Specific packaging and shelf life condition may influence the risk. Fourth condition, during regulatory filing or life cycle management. New drug application, NDA, generic application, ANDA, marketing authorization application, WHO, product filing needs nitrosamine risk assessment. And if there is a risk found, then we need to test the nitrosamine impurity in the formulation. Variations involving new sources of the API or excipients. So if alternate vendor development is there and if the applicant found the risk, that time testing is required. Change in the manufacturing process or equipment that may introduce nitrosation risk. So it is during the life cycle approach or life cycle management, SUPAC changes or variation to the product. Then when it is required by the health authorities, sometimes health authorities require to do the testing based on their knowledge understanding regarding the product and the applicant's information submitted to them. So regulatory authorities, health authorities like FDA, EMA, CDSCO, WHO and other country specific regulatory authorities may require nitrosamine risk assessment and may require testing as a part of GMP compliance or GXP compliance. If a company receives a regulatory query or warning based on industry-wide nitrosamine alerts, for example, if the product is there in the market produced by many of the manufacturers and one of the manufacturer is found to be contaminated, or if one of the product in the market is found to be contaminated with the nitrosamine, then this warning or regulatory query is given to the all medicine manufacturers for that same product. Then that time testing becomes necessary. Then when total daily intake, that is TDI of nitrosamine, exceeds the acceptable intake, that is AI limit. So if cumulative nitrosamine in the formulation are suspected to exceed certain threshold or TDI, for example 18 nanogram per day for most of the nitrosamine, this is the limit. If it is exceeding, that time testing is required. Testing is typically performed as a part of nitrosamine risk assessment outcome using the validated sensitive methods like GCMS, LCMS, MS and HRMS. Initially, a pilot and production batches are tested if the risk is identified, and periodically for a long-term stability samples or if new risks are introduced. And new risks are introduced based on the change in the manufacturing process, raw materials and the APIs. Summary of the nitrosamine requirement of the testing. Nitrosamine testing is required when there is a known or suspected risk of nitrosamine presence or formation. Regulatory guidance mandates it during development approval or post-approval changes, or if the formulation environment supports the nitrosation. If there are certain excipients containing the nitrite impurities, process is done at high temperature and acidic condition, and sometimes storage and shelf life. If it is supporting the nitrosamine formation, that time nitrosamine are required to be tested. So this is the short information regarding the conditions when is the nitrosamine testing is required in the formulation. I hope this video will help you to understand certain conditions when you need to test the nitrosamine impurities. Thank you for watching the video.